Welcome back. Module 5 is all about editing. We'll learn WeVideo's basic editing features as well as some best practices for video editing. Are you ready? Here we go. In the last module, we already imported our footage. If there's anything else that you'll need, like images, including PDFs, sound files, or sound effects, make sure and get them all imported before you continue. This helps streamline your workflow and saves a lot of time. Let's take a look at the WeVideo workspace. This area right here is called the timeline. You'll see that you have the time listed in seconds going across the top of the timeline. You can use the slider on the lower right-hand side of the screen to zoom in or zoom out. Notice how the minutes and the seconds on the timeline changes. You'll notice as a default, you'll have a Video 1 and a Video 2 section of your timeline, and then you'll have an Audio 1 section. Over here is the preview window, and up here are the tabs that you'll be using as you edit your video. We'll learn more about them later on in this module. For now, make sure that this portion of the preview window is set to the default 16:9 ratio. Use the drop-down arrow to change it if it's not set correctly. Click on the My Media tab and find the test video that you made. Click and hold and drag it to the Video 1 portion of the timeline. Notice how I can move it around to anywhere on the Video 1 portion of the timeline. The blue marker shows where on the timeline the clip begins. Once you've placed the video in a spot that you want, click and drag the blue marker to any portion of the timeline that the video is sitting in. Press the spacebar to play and press it again to stop. When it's playing, you should be seeing and hearing your footage. Every piece of footage is a certain length of time. You can tell how long it is by going to the My Media tab and looking there. You can also find how long the footage is by hovering over it in the timeline. If you only need the first few seconds of the beginning of a piece of footage, click on the piece of footage you're going to edit. Go to the end of it and move your cursor until it changes to the horizontal double arrow. Click, hold, and drag. Watch the newly edited piece of footage and see if you got the right amount of time trimmed off. If you make a mistake and took too much out, just drag it back. The footage never really gets destroyed after you edit it out. You can always bring it back. If you need to trim off something else other than the end of a piece of footage, drag the blue time marker to the place where you'd like to make a cut. Click the scissors icon to make your first cut. You can make as many cuts as you'd like. Click the piece of footage that you'd like to get rid of and press delete on your keyboard. Once you make your cuts, you can always move the remaining pieces of the footage back together so that they play one right after another. When you're moving a piece of footage to meet another one on the timeline, when you get close, the moving piece of footage will snap to the stationary piece. If at any time you make a mistake, you can always press Ctrl-Z to undo or use the undo button on the timeline. Okay, your turn. Take your piece of footage from the timeline and experiment with it. Cut it, move it around, move the time marker, and use the spacebar to play and stop your video. When you're done with that, fire up this video and we'll move on with some more editing. Oh, and one more thing. WeVideo automatically saves your video edit, so there's no need to worry about whether or not you saved your video. Let's look at how to use images in our video. Import whatever images you need, including any PDFs, into your media folder for this project. When you drag an image onto the timeline, it has a default duration of 5 seconds. You can easily change that by extending or shortening the image duration in the same way you can do with footage. It's a good idea to create an intro so that your students know what to expect out of the video they're about to watch. Luckily, WeVideo makes it really easy to create great intros with very little work. Let's take a look. Here we have a piece of footage on the timeline. Let's give it an intro. Select the Text tab. On the left-hand side, you'll see a list of folders containing different types of titles to choose from. When you click on one of the titles, you'll see filler text that'll show you what your text is going to look like in this particular title. Most of the titles you'll use will be from the Motion folder, but feel free to look around in the other folders for alternatives. A quick note, The text of your title should be about the same amount of text as the filler text. It won't look very good if you try to cram too much text in. Once you've selected a title you like, click and drag it to the video 1 line. This should be the same space as your footage. Notice that when I try and move it to the beginning of the timeline, it overlaps with the footage I already have there. When I release it, I'm given an option to insert and push. Select this option. It'll move everything on the timeline over to make room for the new piece of media that you're adding. Titles work similarly to footage on the timeline with one exception. The beginning and end of the title always take the same amount of time. When you adjust the length of the title, you're really adjusting how long that the static part of the title is showing. To change the text of the title, double-click on the title in the timeline. You'll see a screen similar to this pop up. Click on the Word Bubble tab. You'll see the filler text in gray in the text fields. Replace the text with your own and click Save Changes. For those feeling adventurous, change the color of the different elements of your title. If you don't like it, just simply hit cancel and start over. Okay, time to play. Add a title to your timeline and customize the text however you want. If you'd like to try customizing the colors too, go for it. You can't break it. If you mess up, all you have to do is delete the title and select it from the text tab again. For super extra bonus points, add a title to the end of your video as well. All right, off to work. Let's jump right in again. Sometimes it's necessary to use 2 or more pieces of footage at the same time. This is where the video 1 and video 2 line comes in. Notice how the video 2 line is on top of the video 1 line. Whatever piece of visual media is nearest to the top of the screen is going to be the one that shows in the preview window. Let's take a look at an example. Here we have one piece of footage. If we put it in the video 1 line and play, we can see it with no problem. Same if we do it on the video 2 line. But let's say that you have a video of yourself giving a lecture and you want to show a particular image when you get to a certain part of your lecture. This is easy to do. Place the footage of yourself talking in video 1. When the time comes for the picture to show up, take your image and move it to the video 2 line directly above the video 1 line. The audio will still be playing from video 1, but the image you used will supersede the video 1 line. The footage in video 1 will still be playing as normal. You just won't be able to see it, but you will be able to hear the audio from it. This trick is especially helpful when you have a lot of charts, pictures, or other still images to show. You can also use another piece of footage with this, but you'll need to turn down the volume on one of the pieces of footage. To do that, click on the piece of footage that you don't want to hear. You'll see a little menu pop up. Click the little speaker icon. Take the volume slider all the way to 0 and then click on a blank spot in the timeline to leave that menu option. This is a really easy way to silence an entire piece of footage from beginning to end. Stock media is awesome. Sometimes when you need to explain something but you don't have the media to show it, stock media will most likely be able to help you. WeVideo has professional quality stock media that's totally free for us to use. Click on the Stock Media tab and type in something in the search bar. For this example, we'll pretend that we're a science teacher who is discussing G-force and wants to show some video of a roller coaster. Let's type in roller coaster. You'll see that different types of media come up. If you want to filter by media type, you can do that by using this menu and selecting videos, images, or audio. Selecting all will show all types of available media. You can tell something is a piece of footage because you'll see a timestamp in the upper right-hand corner of the thumbnail. To preview it, just click on it once. If you like it, you can move it to your timeline. Note, stock footage typically doesn't have audio. You can scroll down a little more in the search results and see a still image. Other search terms will yield more still images and audio files. Alright, time to apply what you've learned. Since our last break, we talked about how the Video 1 and Video 2 lines are used. Remember, if you have footage stacked upon each other on the Video 1 and Video 2 line, then the footage on Video 2 will be given priority and shown on the preview screen. Also, we learned about stock media and how to search and filter the results. For this break, play around with stacking different media, footage, and images on top of each other. See if you can have the footage of you talking accompanied by a picture, just like we saw a few minutes ago in the example. Be sure to go back in this video if you need a reminder of how to do that. We have one more piece of editing to learn about: transitions. This will be quick and easy, I promise. When you have two pieces of visual media next to each other, you can add a transition to make things look a little smoother, like this. See, wasn't that nice? Here's how to do it. Transitions can be inserted between any two types of visual media, footage or images. To create a transition, click on the Transitions tab. On the left-hand side, you'll see two folders, a standard and an additional folder. To see an example of how a transition will work, click on it. The preview screen will show two images with a transition in between them. When you've decided on a transition, click and drag it in between the two pieces of media until you see a green bar. Release it, and boom, you have a transition. You'll see a little gray box in between the pieces of footage. This is the transition. If you double-click it, you can change the duration. The default is 1 second, but try 0.5 seconds to see if you like that look better. Experiment to see what you like the best. If you don't like a transition, you can always delete it by clicking on it and pressing the little trash can icon. Okay, that does it for this module. Take a few moments to play with transitions. They're really fun. When you're done with that, we'll learn how to export and share your video. See you in the next module.